Yes, the market is coming back down today, but XRP remains extremely bullish. And I'm not just here with my pom-poms trying to be the cheerleader. We're going to show you real technical and fundamental analysis to back up these claims while also breaking down this new tariff trade deal and the reason why this has been the move from Trump, Howard Lutnick, and then Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent. This has been a plan that they've had going for a while now. And Scott Bessent, I'm going to run you through some of his history and why he is the perfect man for this job and how what they're doing is very tactical. Many people don't understand it, but we're going to try to break that down for everybody in this market update. If you appreciate what we're doing, make sure you guys have subscribed, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our updates. And all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. Let's get started here. Scott Bessent. President Trump signed the Declaration of Economic Independence for the American people. For decades, the trade status quo has allowed countries to leverage tariffs and unfair trade practices to get ahead at the expense of hardworking Americans. The president's historic actions will level the playing field for American workers and usher in a new age of economic strength. This is a plan that they've had going now for a while. This is actually before the election. I'm going to play this clip right here, Scott Bessent. In the next few years, we are going to have some kind of grand economic reordering, something equivalent to a new Bretton Woods. There's a very good chance that happens in the next 4 years, and I'd like to be a part of it. And now you're seeing it play out. Here we go.
I think as an economic historian and someone who's been in markets for 40 years, I actually think I'm starting to look like it now. I think we're also at a unique moment geopolitically, and I could see in the next few years that we are going to have some kind of a grand global economic reordering. There's something on the equivalent of a new Bretton Woods, or if you want to go back, like a treaty, something back to the steel agreements or the Treaty of Versailles. There's a very good chance that we are going to have to have that over the next 4 years, and I'd like to be a part of it. I've studied this. I think it's kind of a unique skill set.
Yeah, and it really is a unique skill set, and very few people actually have this capability. Zero Hedge says, forget the Bank of England. Bessent just broke the bank of everywhere, including our stock market too. And this is why I put out this tweet right here. I said, Trump is humbling Wall Street while taking care of the working class. That's what this is about, right? He was put in here by the working class of America. We want a fair deal, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on a level playing field. Now, why did Zero Hedge make that joke about not just for breaking the Bank of England, but breaking the bank of everywhere? This is because Scott Bessent, if you look back at his history, no one's probably better suited to actually be in this role right now, where we're at right now for this country with our Fed and with a new Treasury Secretary. I don't think that there's a better person for the job. When you go back, Scott Bessent was actually mentored by Jim Rogers, legendary investor Jim Rogers. And then he actually went on to work for George Soros and Soros Fund Management. Now, before you get spooked out, remember, this is the money-making world, and Scott Bessent went there, and he was actually the lead in the group that was part of shorting, or basically trading against the Bank of England in the pound sterling. And this is the group, the story of George Soros breaking the Bank of England and the pound sterling, right, and betting against them. That was Scott Bessent who was actually leading that. So disregard your opinions of George Soros. Scott Bessent was in his role to make money for the fund, and that's exactly what they did. They profited over $1 billion by breaking the back of the Bank of England. Who better suited to actually be in position right now where it's time to humble Wall Street a little bit? It's time to humble these banksters. And I'm talking about the private entities, Federal Reserve, etc., that has been abusing and taking advantage of America, just like these trade deals that were taking advantage of America. And Scott Bessent, and yesterday he got interviewed, and they were asking him about the markets again, and he said that's a Meg 7 problem, not a mega problem. They do not care about sacrificing our stock market a little bit. Because why? because the average American, the working class American, does not care if they have to pay 10 or 20% more. We can't get some cheap goods from some country, but our gas prices are down. Our grocery prices are going down. We're not going to have taxes, no tax on tips, no tax on income less than 150,000. We're going to see that full rollout when that bill gets pushed out through Congress. But you already saw the Fair Tax Act of 2025 submitted by Buddy Carter, which would remove the income, payroll, estate, and gift tax. And Scott Bessent laying it out there before the election saying, it's time for a new Bretton Woods. I'd like to be a part of that. There's probably very few people that are, better suited to actually be in this position right now, which is why I'm going to bring you over here to the 10-year bond chart. And Scott Bessent says this is what he watches most importantly is that 10-year. Okay, and the 10-year is what bases our mortgage rates, what bases our debt market. You want a loan on your credit card, go get a car, personal loan, go get a mortgage. It's all based off of this 10-year. And Trump said, hey, Fed should cut rates. They're not cutting rates, right? They're not budging. Powell's remaining strong. Fed's remaining strong and not cutting rates yet. Well, that's okay. We don't need the Fed to cut rates because Scott Bessent and Trump just did. Take a look at the 10-year. The 10-year now just broke down to 4% this morning. When Trump took office, this thing was all the way up at 4.8, nearly 5%. This is why mortgage rates had gone to 7.5%, 8% for some folks. Now mortgage rates are coming back down. They're down below 7%. And if this continues, we won't need a Fed rate cut because we're already making it happen. Once again, bring me back to my post. Trump is humbling Wall Street while taking care of the working class. That's what this is about. This is what they were elected to do. This is the plan that they've had all along. And they're moving in here and they're moving very quickly. And it's actually laughable to see French President Macron and others urging companies to pause all U.S. investments. The European Union says that they have a response ready to go. Some other folks have come out here today and acting like they have something to respond with. Nobody has a response to this other than folding, dropping their tariffs, starting to play fair, which is all we want, is to play fair. And everybody's focused on Trump and how bad this is without acknowledging why are all these tariffs in place against us? Why are we being treated like this? And when we go to implement a little bit of a tariff here, suddenly we're the bad guys. No, that's not the case. We're operating to get fair trade deals. We want to see benefits for the American working class. And this is how you do it. You bring manufacturing and investment capital back to America. You lower taxes, you lower regulation, and you save the US dollar. And that's what they're doing right now. And there is no response. Mark my words, you're about to see every single one of these countries come back to the table, and they're either going to drop the tariffs significantly, or in some cases, they'll drop them completely, which is what the whole idea of free trade is supposed to be about. Why do you get to charge us 50%, 100%, or in some cases even more, and we aren't charging you anything? That's not fair. And so the sacrifice is being made. That's your stock market. If you're still in these high-flying tech stocks, well, you should have evaluated your portfolio. You should have understood that they were overvalued, and you should by now be able to see that Trump and the team here, Scott Bessent, they do not care about sacrificing the stock market to put their America First agenda in place, to restore our republic, and to create a level playing field. That's what they're here to do, and they're moving quickly towards it. Now, in that direction, we're also going to get Paul Atkins confirmed by the Senate Banking Committee this morning. Now he's going to move on for a full Senate vote. This is going to lead to even more capital formation in this country. Right? This country is about to be opened up for business like never before. Now, over on speaking of Wall Street, well, I told you guys that Wall Street can't wait to sell all these crypto products. And so now we see another one rolled out here today by Bitwise. This is Hunter Horsley, the CEO of Bitwise. And they roll out a new fund, 3 new products for their income strategy. Income strategy ETFs is what they're calling these. And so it's pretty funny. He says, what if crypto's volatility could be a good thing, right? Perfect day to drop this one while the market's coming back down, right? Actively managed option income ETFs aiming to harvest volatility to generate potential income for investors each month. Now, these are related to crypto, but they're basically income strategies based off of the stocks of Mara, which is a big Bitcoin miner, Coinbase, and then MicroStrategy as well too. So I told you guys that, and you're seeing it right here. They can't wait to sell these products: spot ETFs, basket ETFs, index funds, options strategies, income strategies, this strategy, that strategy, give us your money strategy is what this is. And this is why I'm feeling as comfy as ever in my self-custody, right? I got control of my assets. I got, my precious metals for defense. And then for offense, we're into cryptocurrencies and we're self-custodying most of them, especially XRP. And this is why I feel so secure, right? From a technical standpoint, which I'll show you next, XRP remains bullish. From a fundamental perspective, it's as bullish as it's ever been, and it's only going to pick up from here as these institutions in Wall Street are watching the stock market correct. This story is kind of over, being reset. I guess the market's being reset would be the proper term to use here. And so where do we turn to next? How does BlackRock keep 10 trillion assets under management? How do these other Wall Street firms keep your money with them or get you to give them money? They need to produce new products and they need to produce returns. Where are we seeing that come from right now? And where is the outperformance coming from? It's coming from utility-based cryptos, utility cryptos that are based out of America, like XRP. And that's where I'm going to bring you to this point here, and why I'm saying XRP remains extremely bullish. I'm going to show you some TA perspective here from a Korean trader who's pointing out how XRP is outperforming every other crypto right now. When we're coming to the downside, yes, we're coming back down, but not as much as Ethereum, Solana, and many of these other cryptos. And so many people have overlooked how big this exposure is in South Korea, but it actually makes up about 20% of XRP's market cap and a significant amount of the XRP trading. And so this guy right here, X-Force Global, I just started following him on Twitter, X I should say. First Korean certified Elliott Wave analyst, and he's a leading TradingView educator. Okay, I really like his stuff that he's been putting out here, and I like the perspective from South Korea. I'm going to link up this video down below because I think it's a great video that he's put together. I'd encourage you guys to follow this guy if you want to keep up on the TA. But take a listen in on what he has to say about XRP in South Korea and basically his insights as to why XRP is being held up and outperforming everything else so well. Take a listen.
Where many Korean investors still believe in XRP's potential to be a global competitor in the financial infrastructure of these assets. And despite all of the regulatory setbacks that has happened so far, Korea has arguably remained extremely bullish on XRP for so long, especially when it comes to international payments. So that brings me into what the future holds for XRP in Korea. And I think that we are at a pivotal moment where XRP is not just a speculative asset, it's really evolved into a symbol of Korea's dominance in the cryptocurrency markets. And what they're doing is that they're focusing a lot of their resources into just one coin. And with its massive reserves of XRP and continued retail demand at the same time, the country, I believe, will be the key driver to XRP's global future price action when it comes to the actual implementation of also the technology. So as you can see, we are secretively building up XRP without the West not knowing too much about XRP's positioning within the Korean markets. So that brings me into the Korean won chart, which is very important. And I think many people don't talk about this. And I believe that XRP's
And I've showed you guys this chart a few times now, but listen in here closely. A lot of people overlook this, but remember back in the 2017-2018 bull run, the Korean exchanges in the Korean markets is really what broke the XRP price chart. They were having problems with their currency and people wanted exposure to XRP in such a big way. This is when CoinMarketCap delisted the Korean exchanges in the middle of the night for no reason. Well, their excuse was the currency volatility with the Korean won. Well, that's the point of crypto, right? Is that we're trying to find safety. We're trying to get away from these fiat currencies. And so should we just remove the South Korean won and all of the Korean exchanges from CoinMarketCap? And they did this just for XRP, by the way. To X-Force Global's point right here, Korea loves XRP. They're big into crypto, but they love XRP. And so this is why that XRP Korean won chart should not be taken off of coin market cap. It absolutely should not be happening like that, but it also should not be discounted. It should be included in our analysis, and that's why I've shown it a few times, but I probably myself should look at it more closely too. Take a listen in here though on what he has to say about this chart and the insights that it might be giving us right now.
Price action on the Korean won chart could be foreshadowing some events in two different ways. Number one is that the XRP price action has already created a lower low on the Korean won chart. There is no other exchange that has actually printed a lower low. So that shows the actual retail driven price action on these charts, that even without perpetual markets, XRP's price action on the spot markets just show the actual relevance of how strong the volume is on spot markets. So with that being said, I think that if we are able to be supported above these levels, that can give us some foreshadowing event that some kind of larger wave 1-2 is already in place, or if we're going to be creating another low, create some kind of WXYXZ pattern to the downside, that could still give us some overall distinct look of a controlled pullback rather than us leading into what could be some kind of impulsive pattern to the downside, which is arguably bearish. And we are seeing that across multiple assets such as Ethereum, such as Solana. A lot of them are arguably in a bearish structure. Well, I'm not sure about Ethereum. I'm more on neutral in Ethereum, but it still doesn't change the fact that XRP has been outperforming every other coin in terms of actually holding these levels. While we're seeing 30% minus on Bitcoin, we're seeing XRP even hold above its immediate low, which is very, very strange. So that's something to keep in mind. And that leads me on to what the XRP USD chart may be telling us, that if a lot of people are expecting another low at the $1.50 levels, that actually might not happen, where the Korean won charts actually could be showing us some kind of potential bottom where we might be working in some kind of impulse to the upside where the actual bullish trend continues.
So I'm going to link up this video down below. The full video is about 13 minutes, and I think that he provides some great analysis there, and he's showing here is something that's overlooked, right? This Korean chart, XRP Korean won chart already bottomed out, and this wouldn't be significant if there wasn't so much demand and trading volume coming from Korea, exchanges like Upbit, but it's dominant. Like, it's one of the biggest markets, right? And so sure enough here, I'm loading up my XRP chart right now, and take a look. This is the XRP US dollar chart, back up to $2 after we did drop down to about $1.95, $1.96 it looks like. I don't know. You guys can tell me what we went down to on your exchange. Quick reminder that we're still up 300%. This is a 300% move to the upside since the election. So we're still sitting very, very, very pretty there. But just noting here that XRP did come back down and tap this level of support here once again. And as the X-Force Global had mentioned there in his post, even if we do come down to the $1.50 range, your Elliott wave structure still is intact, and it still is extremely bullish, right? And I don't think that we'll make it down there because too many people are expecting it. And when the masses are being led and everybody believes in one thing, typically what we see is the opposite happen, or even if we do trend in that direction, we fall short. And so my analysis had said that we probably hold $2. Sure enough, here we are at $2. And, I've already gotten a lot of comments of folks saying, hey, I scooped up the dip at 201. Some folks said I scooped up the dip down to 198. Hopefully you guys were able to take advantage of that. I'm done accumulating XRP, but it's very clear that people still want exposure to XRP here at $2. From a technical standpoint, it remains incredibly bullish. From a fundamental perspective, it couldn't be better. And so that's why we're just back here chilling, watching the rest of the stock market break, watching the rest of the market panic, while we sit back and hold an incredible asset. Very important to the new financial system. Speaking of Bretton Woods, getting a deal done, avoiding war, and actually establishing peace. Remember, all wars are banker wars. How do you do so? You do so with a neutral reserve currency like XRP. And so I think that that's why you're seeing big exposure in Korea. That's why it's being bought up here in America. Exchanges like Coinbase, etc. You got RLUSD, which just got listed on its first tier 1 exchange, Kraken, yesterday. The liquidity is about to build up in a massive way here. And it's just very clear that, as mentioned in the previous post there from X-Force Global, XRP's outperforming nearly all these other major cryptocurrencies right now. Even to the downside, we're holding up better. and to the upside, we blasted past and made way more gains than Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything since the election. So structure's intact from a technical and fundamental standpoint. I hope that you're hanging in there emotionally and mentally, because that's almost more important. There's a lot of noise being made out there by people that are completely speaking out of turn when it comes to the tariffs, when it comes to XRP being way too bearish. And I think that those people are going to get left behind. If you're selling here, you're late. If you're shorting here, you're cooked. Good luck and God bless to you, but I don't think it's going to work out. You guys let me know what you see in the comments down below. I'm about to be recording an interview with the CEO of Constellation Network, Ben Jorgensen, which will probably be dropping tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But I will also be back later tonight for our regular Thursday live show at 10 p.m. Eastern, and so I hope to see you there, and I hope that you appreciate this update. If you did, you know what to do for me. ZachRector.com for the rest of our resources. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.